Hello, everybody. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live, where we'll be talking about immersion. So learning a foreign language, even if you don't live in the target language country. My name is Sandra Wood, and I'm a language coach. I provide highly personalized German language coaching, as well as hybrid courses focused on speaking. And I work with international professionals in the Zurich area, and I help them integrate better and speak German more confidently in a work and social environment. And with me today is my lovely colleague, Meg. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, it's so good to be back. I'm enjoying these LinkedIn Lives with you, Sandra. So I do a similar thing, but for English people that want to learn English and become more confident in a job setting, professional setting, really building that confidence through speaking. And all of my classes are online, so it doesn't need to be restricted to a certain area. Yeah, I'd love to meet some more clients. So do you think that you have to be living in a country, Sandra, to be able to become fluent?
Well, I think that's a bit of a myth, really. So people always think I can't master a language if I don't live in the country. But in my own personal experience, that is definitely not the case. So, for example, I'm learning Italian at the moment. I live in Switzerland, where, of course, Italian is an official language in Switzerland. But I live in the German-speaking part, and I've managed to improve a lot from A1 to A2, going towards B1 at the moment. And I don't hear any Italian spoken around me. So it is definitely possible. Are you learning any foreign languages at the moment? What's your experience?
Yeah, so when I was studying languages, I was studying in the UK, both German and French, before I got to spend any time in the country. And I'm currently learning Spanish, and I am hoping to go to Spain at some point, but I've definitely been able to practice and improve even whilst I'm in the UK. And I think that's what we're going to show people today, that you don't need to live in the target country to be able to practice.
Yes, that's right. So immersion is not geography, but what is it then if we don't need to be in that country? What does immersion mean?
Yeah, so it's how much you're able to kind of dive into the language, into the culture, the history, and really have that engagement almost on an emotional level with a language. For me, it's about being able to use the language actively rather than in a passive way. And that can happen both in the country, but not always. And it can definitely happen outside the country. What does it mean to you, Sandra?
Yes, you've made the point about relevance and emotional involvement. So what I've noticed is that when the language becomes relevant to you, so the moment you sit down with somebody and you want to talk about yourself, it is a much different story to when you're just watching a series on Netflix, which is this passive input, and you're listening and you think, oh, yes, I can understand a fair bit. And that in itself is, of course, an achievement and is very enjoyable. But you want to learn a language for a specific purpose most of the time. So that could be to be able to use the language at work or to go about daily life in a country. And once you get to the point where you're in the situation where you have to do that, it suddenly puts it all into perspective and you realize it works. So yes, how can we actively expose ourselves more to the language?
Yeah, I think there's so many different ways to do it, and it's becoming a lot easier with technology and the internet. You can immerse yourself every day. And I think just because you're not there, it doesn't mean that you can't be involved in everything that's happening in the country. Because even when you live in a country, you can be stuck in this kind of expat bubble. I've experienced this, and I'm sure you have as well, that if you're still working and socializing in your native language, just because you're in the physical location doesn't mean you're actually speaking the target language. So you can do that vice versa. I think for me, the important step is kind of putting yourself in an environment on purpose, not just hoping that it's accidentally going to happen because you do 5 minutes on an app every day. So it's really like you said, you know, finding what you need it for, whether you want to be able to go to a coffee shop or you want to be able to do an interview in this language, and put that environment around yourself on a daily basis. Being able to have that exposure, the more time that you're hearing it, speaking it, and interacting with the language, the better. What would you add?
It's what many of my students struggle with, finding the time to speak the language, but also they do live in that expat bubble very often and they don't have the exposure. So I think our viewers would really benefit from some tips. What can they do? How can they change their daily routine to have the language around them a lot more? Many then go onto apps and they keep up their streak, and it gives them that feeling that they're doing something every single day. However, it is not speaking the language. It's again that passive also input from you. Of course, you may be typing a word, you're trying to create a sentence, but then they often say, I feel stuck. The words just don't come out of my mouth. The minute I want to open my mouth and speak, it's simply not there. And that is where you need to make some changes then. And this language environment that you can create, how could that work? Say, if you wanted to learn English for professional purposes, what specifically could you do? Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, I think it depends on what you'd like to do in your native language. So things that bring you joy, that you would do normally, try and do those in the target language. So everybody's going to be different, right? Some people read the news every day, and that is a part of their daily routine. And if you can switch that up and do it in the target language, it won't feel like as much of a challenge because it's already a habit that you've got. Some people love listening to podcasts on the way to work whilst they're commuting. I'm trying to read more content on LinkedIn, for example, because I spend a lot of time there already in my native language. So why not try and do it in the target language? If you can, you know, type a couple of emails or get into some meetings where these languages are happening. Nowadays, we can do that, you know, online. So it doesn't need to be in the room to hear that language. And again, it depends on your goals, but definitely find something that's fun for you so it doesn't feel like a chore or homework. You don't need to sit for a grammar book for hours with a grammar book. What do you think would be important for you when you're learning a language?
Yes, all the things you said, and also stay focused on one topic. So if it is English or German for professional purposes, don't then get sidetracked because you're also into photography or you really enjoy football, whatever it may be. It has to be similar things so that you hear the same words again and again, which then will make them stick and you can slowly start using them actively. So I remember when I was learning English and I had to write an essay on British and American politics, I was just watching the news every single day and reading Newsweek magazine, and they covered all the same topics, but one was listening, the other one was reading. So that really helps from a vocabulary perspective. And then I would say, to get that speaking practice that we've mentioned, try and find a tandem partner. So that is somebody who maybe wants to learn your language and can help you with the language that you're trying to learn. So that makes it real. Facing another person, maybe over a coffee, and you're there in the moment and you have to speak. So I've done this for Italian for maybe a couple of months now, and I've already noticed a massive improvement. I suddenly had to say those things that I've just sort of been reading about. And I think, Meg, you've got a similar experience. What do you do for your Spanish?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is when it comes into like, oh, it's real life as a human. I can, you know, it's still possible to make mistakes, but it adds a little bit more of the reality check, doesn't it? So I go to language meetups, and they have these all over the world. So I know nearly every city or place that I've moved to, I really try and seek these out. They're normally in an evening in the same location, and people from all over the world can join and share their languages. You normally get stickers with the flags of the place of the languages that you speak and the ones that you want to practice. So I think what you said is really valuable about the tandem is that you're offering something in return, and it's kind of seen as this mutual learning experience because you can offer your native language and correct if necessary, but then you can learn from a native speaker in their language. And I think that's really beautiful because it's a connection, and you learn together. And you know what, if you make mistakes, it's fine because the other person that you're chatting to, having a coffee with, they totally get it. They understand what it's like. They're going through the same process in reverse. So I think that's a great way to meet people as well as learn a language, right? It feels a little bit more fun.
And it's immediately that opportunity to connect with people by speaking their language, they speak your language. And that is what language is all about, really building human connections and making new friends, etc. So it's all about being your true self, being authentic and moving away from wanting to be too polished. It's more about getting your message across. What do you want to say to that person? What do you want to know from that person? And there's something that's just come to mind. So my students often worry that nobody corrects them because maybe the native speaker can say, okay, this is how we would say it, but they can't explain why because they're not language teachers. Yeah. And I think that isn't always necessary. The ideal combination would perhaps be to work with a language teacher or coach who can correct you and give you all that background about the words, the grammar, so the linguistic input. But that's only one aspect. And I think having a tandem partner going to a meetup is more, practicing freestyle. So you go in there, you don't know what to expect. And very often it's incredibly rewarding. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of describe it to my clients as learning to drive. Like the coach or the teacher is really important for the theory. And I, more than anybody, get so excited about explaining the grammar and all the linguistic elements. But then at some point you have to get in the car for yourself and, go and explore the world and use the things that we are teaching in the sessions. And that's kind of a loop situation because then you can come back to the coaching sessions and say, hey, I learned this new expression and I used it in the wild and it was really successful, but I didn't quite understand this. And it can kind of feed into each other. And I think that's a really great way of doing it, doing the theory and the practical.
Mm-hmm. So there is a lot you can do if you don't live in the target language country. What do you think, Meg? What can you get from living in the target language country? Say if I lived in Italy or you lived in Spain, what could that give us that we can't get if we live abroad?
Yeah, there are definitely some benefits of the physical immersion. You get a lot more of the cultural cues. I feel like every time I've lived in Germany or French-speaking countries, you get a lot more like slang and colloquialisms. People speak how they speak in the streets rather than how they speak in a textbook. So it's more of the everyday language, but it definitely doesn't automatically give you those things. I think just because you live where you're trying to practice, it doesn't give you the confidence automatically. It's not like buying the plane ticket and you go, here you go, now you're confident in this new language. You still have to communicate and develop that speaking practice.
Yeah, and confidence also doesn't come overnight. It's not a feeling that you can turn on. You develop confidence because you've had more practice and you feel more secure. You feel sort of safe when you speak the target language, as opposed to just suddenly because you've moved abroad. It doesn't work like that. So yes, living abroad can give you lots of other things, but it doesn't automatically give you that, skill to communicate efficiently and to get your message across. And this learning to deal with becoming less of a perfectionist, which is often something that many of us need to work on. So yes, immersion is something that you have to create. It's not a place that you can move to. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you take a structured approach and kind of figure out a plan of how you want to immerse yourself, it's a lot more valuable than just hoping it's going to happen, either geographically or by magic. So I think use the tools, use this online space if necessary, or in person if you can, to get that immersion that's going to happen, that you've created for yourself. And that's, I think, where you can see the progress from anywhere in the world, you know.
Yeah. So absolutely try out different things and maybe just reflect on one thing that you can change. You know, how are you trying to learn the language now, and what can you do differently? Something that doesn't require too much effort, but equally something you can maybe put in your diary and do once a week, like go to a meetup, try and find a tandem partner to get that extra speaking practice. And yes, to see where that takes you and stick with it. It's often the number one thing.
Consistency is hard.
Life gets in the way, and then we think, tonight I can't make it. But honestly, I met up last night with my tandem partner and we did 25 minutes each. And if you're a beginner, speaking a foreign language is so hard anyway, you're really tired after 25 minutes.
It's exhausting. Your brain is like, okay, that's enough. You don't need to dedicate hours to it every week, you know.
Yeah. It's more having something that you do regularly, and you need to have sort of a system and a schedule and stick to that. So I think that's often overlooked, the discipline that it takes to make progress in a foreign language. That's certainly something I always mention to my students as well. So yes, it's been a great chat about immersion so far. Is there anything you'd like to add before we announce our next topic for next month?
Yeah, I'm really excited. This week I've launched some digital products that you can find on my website, Mega Language Coach. So these are ways that you can immerse yourself in English by downloading a PDF. And the exciting part is that it's not fixed to a schedule, whereas the one-to-one calls are at time with me. The downloadable products, you can do them anywhere and make it work for a time that suits you. And I think you've also got an exciting announcement, Sandra.
Well, that sounds fantastic, your digital products. Yes, I'm not quite there yet, but I have got some news. So I've started my very own YouTube channel, German by Sandra, and I want to help people work out a way, or the best way for them to learn German in Switzerland. So there's a lot of information about how you can do that, how you can learn German for the workplace, for example, but also in the long run, there will be some really exciting webinars and you will get instant real-time feedback, and you can learn a lot there. So that will definitely come as soon as it is ready and can be part of your immersion. So why don't you follow me on German by Sandra on YouTube, and I've got exciting things waiting for you.
I'm definitely going to get involved to get immersed in my German again. Sounds great. So yeah, I think our next LinkedIn or our next live, wherever that might be, we will be talking about preparing for interviews in a second language. This is something that we both get asked a lot by our clients, and can be very nerve-wracking. So we're going to share some tips about how to tackle that situation.
Yes, very much looking forward to that, to help you with such an important step like getting a new job, or maybe trying to get a promotion as well. So see you again sometime in March, and it will be announced on LinkedIn as per usual. So thank you very much for watching this live. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with either Meg or me via LinkedIn. Just drop us a message and we'll get back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you. Bye. Cheers.